Welcome to another Cardano update. Like always, make sure to check out our YouTube memberships and our Patreon if you want access to all of our charts and if you want access to our daily Discord updates for only like $5 a month. And as you can see, Cardano is currently seeing a reaction to the 0.618 support level, and the double bottom that I've been, talking about for the past couple of months now is finally in. Now, of course, we could always drop to the next extension, but you have to keep in mind the 618 is very, very important, and it's the golden ratio. Now, if you don't know what the support zone is for, this is the support zone of the first wave move up, and it's the support zone for the second wave move down, and the low could be in. You could count this as some kind of much bigger A, B, C, and actually I have to move these things, so this right now is an A. Well, actually it was an A, this was a B wave, and the C wave is right here. So we'll see if we actually see some type of reaction to the support zone. Keep in mind, if you look at the Ethereum chart, Ethereum is still not doing too great. It's also seeing a type of reaction to the 0.786 support level, but obviously I cannot confirm that the low is in until we get some kind of, 5-wave move up. And honestly, a move to like, let's see, about $2,400 or so would already tell us that, the low could be in, just because of what happened in the past when Ethereum got to the oversold territory on the weekly chart. Now, speaking of that, right now Ethereum is not oversold on the weekly. As you can see, it's extremely close to getting oversold. The RSI is at about 31, and to get to the oversold territory we would need to be at like, let's see, about 30 or so. So we could still drop a bit, and I think this week is just gonna be a slow week because we kind of need a close and in the oversold territory if we actually want to do something like we did over here and like we did over here. Like I said many times in my previous couple of videos, Ethereum has only been oversold on the weekly chart 2 times in the past, and right now we are getting it for the 3rd time. So, and the last 2 times that happened, we got a huge bounce, and the bounce happened extremely soon. Now, of course, in both of these times, these were bear market lows. Right now, this is not a bear market low. We are in the middle of a bull market, so this is obviously extremely bullish, and Ethereum being at like $1,600 right now is very good because Bitcoin dominance is also going up, and obviously it's going up because Ethereum is going down, and I think this will at some point start breaking down as well, and this will start breaking down when Ethereum finally starts going up again. And like I said, the last few times when Ethereum got to the oversold territory on the weekly chart, we had a huge bounce. For example, here, the first time it happened, it was in 2018, I believe, and in the short term, we went up like 94% in a matter of like 28 days. Of course, after that, we went up more if you count what happened right after, but we're only talking about the short term here because we need to know what could happen by the end of May. As you know, the end of May is extremely important. I will talk about that as well. And here as well, I mean, 2022, we also went up like 62% in 28 days after getting the low and after getting to the oversold territory on the weekly chart. So I think we're actually very close to getting some type of big bounce. Of course, these charts cannot really go down forever. At some point, they will get at least some kind of corrective move to the upside. So even if we somehow go in a bear market right now, which seems very, very unlikely, even if we do something like that, it's not going to be a straight move to the downside. We're obviously going to have at least some kind of corrective move to the upside, and during that time, Bitcoin dominance will most likely start dropping. And yeah, we're waiting for a weekly close at the oversold territory on the weekly chart, and yeah, I think after we get it this week or maybe next week, then that could start a big bounce, and that could start a very big Bitcoin dominance drop. Now, I've been talking about Bitcoin dominance for probably almost a year at this point, and I'm still predicting it to go down. I still think that it will get a major move to the downside extremely soon. Now, keep in mind, right now we are already in April. The first week of April is over, meaning that what happened in the previous cycle has not happened in this cycle. In the previous cycle, like I told you, it actually started dropping like crazy at the end of March and in 2017 as well. And right now it did not happen, but it does not mean that it cannot happen. I think it will still happen, but you just need to be a little bit patient, and whenever this happens, the Cardano chart will most likely explode again like it did in November. Speaking of November, if you see what happened in November on the Bitcoin dominance chart, it went from like 61% all the way down to about 54%. During this time, Cardano went up like 300%. Now, please imagine what could happen if Bitcoin were to drop, or actually if Bitcoin dominance were to drop from 63%, where is that right now, to about the trend line right here, which is at like 41%. If this move to the downside got us a 300% move, imagine what a move like this will get us. So that's why I'm very bullish on the altcoins, because I think the altcoins will do extremely well this year, but you just need to, be patient. And if you are patient, I think you will be rewarded for it. I mean, I can give you an example for this. People who were patient down here, if they bought down here at like 30 cents on the Cardano chart, if you were patient, and if you waited long enough, and if you believed in the chart, you got rewarded with this big pump. And the same thing can be said about this right here. If you actually bought right here, if you believed in Cardano when it was like at 22 cents or so, you will got rewarded with this big pump. And right now it's the exact same thing again. Of course, I'm not giving you financial advice, but if you were to buy right here, I think you will get rewarded at some point into the future. Now, of course, it could take a while. Maybe it's not going to be like today or tomorrow or next week, but I think the gains will, happen at some point. And like I said many times, Cardano is in a very similar structure to what it was in the previous cycle. This was a 1-2-1-2 setup, and this right now is a 1-2-1-2 setup. It's the exact same uptrend. It's the exact same trend line, and we have the exact same problem that we did in the previous cycle. We cannot seem to be able to manage to get back above, or actually to get above the 0.618 resistance level of the previous all-time high. As you can see, getting above it in the previous cycle pretty much started this very big move to the upside, which got us from like 23 cents, well actually no, 26 cents in, let's say, January of 2021, all the way up to like $2.50 by May. So this was I think this actually lasted like 5 months, and yeah, during this time Cardano went up like about 1000% or so. So that's what I'm waiting for. Well, of course, I don't think Cardano was gonna go up like 1000% in this cycle, probably not, especially from these lows, but you never know. I mean, if you go up like 1000% from where we are at right now, let's say we're at about 58 cents or so, 1000% puts us at like $6.40. So maybe it is possible, but 1000%, for example, from these highs right here, I mean, it's very, very unlikely to happen. That would put us at about $15. I don't think that's gonna happen. So if you bought at like $1.30, I'm sorry, but we are probably not going to like $15. I mean, I think Cardano will only top at like $5 to $8. And well, why do I believe that? Well, it's actually pretty simple. If you take the 2018 all-time high and the 2021 all-time high, as you can see, from all-time high to all-time high, Cardano went up like 126%. If that were to happen again, we could be looking at a Cardano of about $6.90 by the end of April. Now, I know that sounds insane, and you have to keep in mind, I mean, that would have to happen in the next couple of weeks, which is very, very unlikely, but we don't have to, take exactly 1,337 days for this move. I mean, it could take way longer, and you have to keep in mind this top right here was in January of 2018, and this was after the Bitcoin bull market. So maybe this is what we're doing again. Maybe in this cycle, Cardano will actually top in January of 2026 like it did in 2018, rather than do what it did in 2021. So maybe this is what we're doing. However, that does not mean that Cardano has, to go sideways until January. Of course not. I'm still expecting it to go up very, very soon. And what it needs to do right now, at least on the weekly chart, is get back above the moving average on the weekly RSI. And once we do that, I think that will finally trigger a big wave move to the upside, which will be the third wave of the third wave. Yes, I will make that a t-shirt once it starts. I think it's gonna start very soon, but we still have to wait for a cross on the bull market support band. So until we get that, we might be looking at a few, boring couple of weeks. Now, let me talk about May, because May is very important. Like I said many times in my previous videos, Bitcoin usually gets a big drop in the summer, and as you can see here, for example, in 2013, we started dropping in April. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, this time, but who knows? Maybe the summer drop has already started in this cycle, and maybe this is why Bitcoin is dropping right now. I don't think that's the case. I think in this cycle, we are actually doing what we did in the 2017 cycle. As you can see, in the 2017 cycle, we had a 33%, move to the downside in March, and then we went up again, and we went up until the beginning of June, and then we had the summer drop. And like I told you, we had the summer drop every single cycle on the Bitcoin chart. Even here, this was also a summer drop. and I think it will happen this cycle as well. And you have to keep in mind, Bitcoin is most likely getting to $140,000 by the end of May, whether you like to believe that or not. I know it sounds insane, but that's my prediction, and I think it's a good prediction because, based on what happened with Bitcoin in the past, let's say about 3 years, if you look at the structures, for example, this right here we dropped like 22%, and if you look at the RSI went exactly where we are at right now, and we got to these RSI levels multiple times. We always found support here, and right now we are at the exact same RSI levels. Now keep in mind, if we want to stay bullish, we have to close a wick above the trend line right here. If we close below it, it's gonna be very bearish and Bitcoin could drop even more. So right now we need to get some type of short-term bounce at least, and we need to close back above it. And if we do, we could get something like we did over here. I mean, here this was a 196% pump, this was a 120% pump, and as you can see, I mean, this low, for example, this was 25k, this was 50k, and this low right here was 75k. Is this a coincidence? Well, maybe it's not, but maybe it is. So I mean, if that's the case, if this continues, and if we continue going up like 25k from every single low, then the next low should theoretically be 100k, and I think if we get to like $140,000 by the end of May, we could then drop to 100k to continue this pattern on the Bitcoin chart during the summer, and then at the end of the year we get another pump, which will be the fifth wave move up. My prediction for Bitcoin remains the exact same. I think it's still possible to get to about $255,000 by the end of the year. I know that sounds insane, but that's my prediction and I am sticking to it. And Bitcoin is still looking good, but I know this is not a Bitcoin video, so we go back to the Cardano chart, and Cardano, well, what it has to do right now is get a 5-wave move up. And also, I don't really want to talk about the short term because it's not really that important. I mean, we don't really have much, but I want to talk about the monthly because the monthly is extremely important. If you look at what happened here, we actually found support at the trend line in, I think, March, and we stayed above it. But right now we are below it. I don't think we will close below it. And of course, we have to get back above it by the end of the month. I think that's very possible to do. If we somehow stay below it for the entire month and then we have a close below it, it's gonna be extremely bearish because the pattern will no longer be the same as it was in the previous cycle right here. Here we found support at the moving average on the monthly RSI, and then we bounced, and that started the third wave of the third wave. So right now what we need to do is get back above it and have a weekly, well actually a monthly close above it. And if that happens, then it's gonna be very good for Cardano and of course for the other altcoins as well if they do the exact same thing. So we're still waiting for something to happen. I think Cardano can still be at all-time highs by the end of May if Bitcoin actually gets to $140,000 by then, and that will only happen if it actually wants to go up or if it just continues going down. So this week is gonna be very important because, like I said, we are currently below the trend line on the weekly chart right here. If we close below it, we are most likely going down until July or so, and then we start going up. However, if we close above it and we find support at it again, then I think Bitcoin could still get to $140,000 by the end of May. And for those saying that it's unrealistic, well, from this low right here, that would be a 73% pump in about 70 days. And we had multiple, pumps like these in the past. I mean, even in this cycle, here, for example, if you take, I think, this low right here and you go and see how much it went up in the short term, Bitcoin went up like about 60% in like 77 days here. So it's definitely possible for something like that to happen again. Here's another example from the low of like August of 2024. Bitcoin went up quite a lot. I think it went up, let's see, about 40% or so after the low, and I mean that only took like 70 days. So right now we are in a post-halving year, meaning that Bitcoin will most likely do even better than it did in the past. And of course that's only my opinion, maybe it's not gonna play out, but so far almost everything I have said about, the charts has turned out to be true in some kind of way, except for Bitcoin dominance. So that's all I have. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to check out our YouTube memberships and our Patreon if you want access to all of our charts, and if you want access to our daily Discord updates. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.